Hey, welcome back to my channel, man. It's just still news and politics week. Let's go ahead and get into it. Now, the U.S. got something going on with Venezuela, and I'm finna read the description real quick. So, the problem between U.S. and Venezuela stems from over 2 decades of escalated tensions, primarily driven by Venezuela's increasingly authoritarian government under Nicolas, however you pronounce that. U.S. sanctions over human rights, democracy concerns, and alleged drug trafficking and disputes over oil revenue and assets. Now, of course, oil was a big thing that everybody's talking about on the news. That's the main focus, right? So now the current conflict involves Trump's administration crackdown on Venezuela's oil sector via sanctions, seizing tankers, military posturing, and accusations of drug terrorism, which Venezuela decries as imperial aggression, leading to a cycle of escalating actions and counteractions. Now we about to go ahead and get into these videos, man, and see get more information and just see what's happening. So let's get right into it.
Down in the Caribbean Sea, the U.S. Coast Guard is pursuing a third tanker off the Venezuelan coast. It's the third in the last 10 days. Tonight, Venezuela is pushing back, calling the seizures, quote, theft and hijacking. Here's ABC senior White House correspondent Selena Wang.
Tonight, rising tensions with Venezuela as the U.S. is in active pursuit of a sanctioned dark fleet vessel fleeing the Caribbean. A U.S. official tells ABC News the Coast Guard is attempting to intercept a vessel that's part of Venezuela's, quote, illegal sanctions evasion. The official says the ship is, quote, flying a false flag and under a judicial seizure order. This comes after Saturday's seizure of an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela, carried out by an elite Coast Guard tactical team. The same type of unit used just 10 days earlier when American forces rappelled from helicopters onto another oil tanker's deck to take control of the ship. Tonight, Venezuela firing back, calling the seizures theft and hijacking.
I consider it a provocation and a prelude to war, and I hope we don't go to war with Venezuela.
Last week, President Trump threatened to impose what he called a total and complete blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers traveling to and from Venezuela, a move that could devastate the Venezuelan economy. Oil exports, the lifeblood of President Nicolas Maduro's regime. All of this as the U.S. amasses the largest military presence in the Caribbean in decades. The Pentagon also striking 28 alleged drug boats in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific, killing at least 100 people, without providing any public evidence or identifying those killed. The administration insisting its pressure campaign is about targeting drug traffickers and sanctioned oil, but some Republicans openly calling for regime change.
I am all in the camp for regime change.
And President Trump has been warning for weeks now that land strikes targeting drug traffickers inside Venezuela could be coming soon, saying this week that he's not ruling out war. So lawmakers are now pressing the administration for clarity, asking what the real end game is here. Is it about oil, drugs, or regime change? Rachel?
Those questions coming from both.
Question: what is it about? Is it about oil, drugs, or the regime change? Man, that was a great question to end that up. But as you can see the videos, man, you seen the tactical military guys taking over ships, man, and they said that was I believe they said they was about to try to take over a third one too. So yeah, man, it's getting crazy.
This story could mark a turning point in global geopolitics. Over the weekend of December 20 to 21, the United States intercepted and seized an oil tanker carrying nearly 1.8 million barrels of Venezuelan crude oil. The destination? China. The location? Off the coast of Venezuela. Washington claims the ship was part of Venezuela's so-called shadow fleet, operating under a false flag to evade U.S. sanctions on the Maduro regime. But for Beijing, this was not law enforcement. This was an act of piracy. China's foreign ministry bluntly called the seizure a serious violation of international law, accusing the United States of attacking sovereign rights and free trade. This is where the story gets dangerous, because this was not just about Venezuela. This was about China's energy security. Venezuela supplies up to 15% of China's crude oil imports, and for Beijing, interfering with that supply is a direct strategic threat. The Trump administration, meanwhile, is escalating pressure on Garacos, floating ideas of renewed sanctions, even a potential naval blockade. And now, China and Russia have both stepped in, pledging diplomatic support for Venezuela. So, the big question is this: could China take massive offense and jump into the US-Venezuela conflict? And could a direct showdown between Xi Jinping and Donald Trump push the world closer to a global war? Experts say direct military intervention by China is unlikely, but indirect involvement is very much on the table. Just look at Ukraine. The US never sent troops, but it sent money, weapons, intelligence, and diplomatic cover. China could do the same for Venezuela. Economically, Beijing could expand loans, oil for debt deals, and Belt and Road projects to keep Maduro's government afloat, despite US sanctions. Militarily, China could supply surveillance drones, defensive systems, or training support without ever putting boots on the ground. Diplomatically, China could block US moves at the UN, rally BRICS nations, and amplify anti-US narratives globally. And on energy, Beijing could help Venezuela create alternative export routes, bypassing US interdictions, challenging American control over global energy flows. So, does this lead to World War III? Most analysts say the probability remains low. Nuclear deterrence, massive US-China trade, and fear of global economic collapse all act as brakes. But here's the risk. If missteps pile up, naval standoffs, cyber retaliation, or Russia deepening its role, what started as one oil tanker could ignite a much larger confrontation. For now, this is a warning shot, not a war. But the lines are hardening, the players are positioning, and the world is watching very carefully.
So as you can see, man, they said one of the oil tankers that the U.S. have taken over was supposed to be going to China, and he said, China could be trying to get into it as far as they might not directly get into it, but with the U.S., but they might do what we did for Ukraine. So all of this stuff is interesting, man. We can see it playing out in the real life. And with that being said, man, we just got to see what happens in the future. You know, how they solve it, how they go about it, how the U.S. and Venezuela settle their differences. So, yeah, man. I don't have anything else to add. And with that being said, I'm out. Peace.